Welcome to this week's episode of the Success Realtor Podcast by yours truly, Colleen Wood. Here is where we celebrate success in real estate and share the wisdom and struggles so that others can be successful too. If you're a new listener, I'm the producing branch manager of the Wood team at Hometown Lenders, and I'm known for helping realtors earn a lot more money in commissions without selling their soul to the industry and while maintaining balance with what's most important in life. I am so excited to be talking to Rachel Vardiman, realtor with Eagle Real Estate in Cody, Wyoming. Rachel, we got on the phone for a couple minutes the other day to discuss the podcast, and I think we hit it off immediately. I felt like I found a soul sister, so I'm so excited to be talking to you today.
Well, thank you for inviting me to be part of your podcast. I'm looking forward to sharing what I can. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I feel like in all these different parts of the world, we all have pieces to share that makes our careers so successful. So I'm excited to be hearing about Cody. So tell me about your current market in Cody. What are you seeing?
So in Cody, we definitely were kind of like everybody else in the region. We kind of skyrocketed there for a little bit, and it was so busy with buyers and sellers that it was practically difficult to keep up with. And frankly, it was lucrative, but it was not really that enjoyable the last couple of years because I felt like I couldn't actually help people. But right now, what we're kind of seeing is we still have a pretty strong seller's market. In the last, say, month or so, we've seen some significant price drops, which, we're still enough of a strong market and we still have enough buyers that as soon as we're seeing those significant price drops, those are going under contract. And so what I'm kind of seeing is that, we were kind of trying to adjust and adjust and adjust, and we were going up, and now we've kind of hit a top end. And now as things are adjusting back down, nothing drastic. When you look at the houses that go on the market that are probably priced right to begin with, they're still going under contract within 30 days or so. And so we're still seeing that the ones that we're seeing price drops probably needed those price drops to begin with,
Yes.
But so we still have a pretty strong market. People are still buying and selling. Like everywhere, we have low inventory around Cody, and I actually work around the whole Bighorn Basin. And I think it's pretty similar across the board that way. I work a lot in Powell too, and same thing, the houses that go on the market, if they're priced right to begin with, they are getting sold in a hurry. But the nice thing too is that, whereas like even a year ago, if a house was priced appropriately, you had hours to get somebody in there to see it before it was under contract. And now we're to days, which is nice because people actually have a chance to go look at it. And again, that's for me more enjoyable because I feel like I can actually get somebody in the house. They can look at it. They can make a good choice as to whether that's for them or not, and not have to be like panicked that, oh my gosh, if I don't do this one, am I going to even have a chance at another one? So I kind of like the leveling out and the normalizing a little bit.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I mean, it felt like when it was so wild and crazy like that, when they only had an hour to get in and then they had to bid $100,000 over ask without even like bringing their wife to come and see it or whatever it was. Like, shoot, we want people to be buying houses that have jobs. And typically during the middle of the day, they're working. So, that's really important for people to be able to get in there. Yeah.
And I have staggering statistics from the National Association of Realtors of the last few years, just the number of people that have buyer's remorse over a property they had purchased. And it was like more than 50%. And that's sad to me that people felt like they had to buy that quickly to make that kind of a purchase and then be like, wow, that was wrong. Yeah. That's a big deal.
Well, and then you feel like they're angry at you for leading them astray.
So far, knock on wood, I haven't had that situation, but I could see where it would happen. And we just don't want that for people. So
yeah. I don't think anybody would come out and be like, because everybody knew at the time what the market was doing. And I don't think that they would, directly be mad, but it feels like, man, I should have done, I wish I could have done this family a little bit better, and, we care about people. So what is it that you predict over the next 12 months? What does that look like?
My guess is it depends a little bit on interest rates, but more importantly, I think people are going to get adjusted back to that. We're kind of back to a normal situation, even with interest rates. When you look at the last 30 years and where we've been, with those interest rates. At any point in time, people had to buy and sell houses for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And so I think that's going to continue to happen. And I think where we are right now feels weird because of kind of it was almost like a false sense of reality for a couple years of where we
Yeah.
were with all that stuff. And we
Mhm.
definitely adjust down way faster than we adjust up mentally, So I think as we kind of get back into that and be like, yeah, where we are is not unreasonable.
Mm-mm.
And I think people will settle down. And meantime, though, I do think for our area, my guess is that at least for a little while, we're going to see some price reductions. I'm not going to say they're going to be like dropping back to where they were, because I do think in
Yeah.
general for our area, we were so far behind to begin with in our property values. 3 or 4 years ago, I think our property values were so far behind so much of the rest of the country. And
Mhm.
then as COVID hit, as we had more millennials trying to find housing, as we had just this overall housing shortage and people trying to leave kind of the suburban areas they were in and come to more rural areas, I think it just drove those prices up really quickly for real estate, especially.
Mhm.
And I think we'll see them come down slightly, but my guess, total guess, is that we don't see like a total crash, and we definitely don't go back to where we were 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah,
Just a guess.
absolutely. Absolutely. And what is your average price at this point in your market?
Well, that's been kind of a moving target, but
Mhm.
in Cody, I think the last time I ran that report was like March. Our median list price was like $800,000, which is
Wow.
ridiculous, but it is what it
Wow.
is. Powell
Really?
was actually still lower. Powell's median list price was still like 350. And
Mhm.
so, but it's been interesting. Cody market in particular has been really interesting because we are seeing these inflated prices. Park County in general, we don't have a ton of private land. It's a lot of public land. And so that just, it's a supply and demand deal, And so we have a lot of people that come to Cody when they can't afford to buy in Jackson.
Yes.
And they come here and think, wow, that's a great deal. And it is for them, but what we're seeing though is it's tough for families. If you
Mm.
have one or two incomes and you're just somebody living here, it's tough to get into anything. In Cody, if you can find a house to move it that's pretty move-in ready around 400,000, it is like a bargain.
Mhm.
So you put that on
Absolutely.
how much people can afford a month, it's pretty tough.
It is. It is. You're right. And we're seeing that same thing here. Do you think that the majority of your buyers are they second home purchasers or are they coming as a primary resident?
Some of both. Forever, what we've had is people either getting ready to retire or are already retired and
Mhm.
they want to live here. That was kind of our big thing for sales for a long time. They were either buying property where they were going to build their dream home when they retired and move here, and that in 4 or 5 years when they did retire. And the main thing with that is we had a lot of families that want to live here. But at that time, when I first started, there's just not a lot of jobs. And
Right.
so there are some, like there's the hospital and the school districts and there's things around. But so much of Cody revolves around tourism, and it's, that kind of up and down throughout the year as far as
Yeah.
service jobs available, things like that. But what changed during COVID is so many more people are moving now with their jobs. And so that has really increased our housing demand because so many people now don't have to rely on having a job here in town. And
Yes.
so now they can move their family to where they want to be. And I mean, we all raise our families here on purpose because of the lifestyle, and it's safer than many places and things like that. And so that's what all these people want. But now they can move with that job. And so
Yeah.
now it's becoming more of an option. And I don't remember the numbers, but I talked to one of the school superintendents recently, and he was telling numbers about the number of families moving in. And I thought, wow, that is incredible because several years ago we could not have supported them. And
No.
now many of them move with their work. So
Yeah. And they're
it's opened
bringing
a
good
whole new
things.
world.
Like they're spending their money in town here. There's some good
Mhm.
things that are coming from that, but it's pricing out the
Absolutely.
local people
Yeah.
that are working in the school districts or in the hospital or,
Mhm.
some of these or, tourist type employment, that you're cleaning hotel rooms and things like that. I mean, that's just really hard to
Yeah.
compete with. So I'm not sure what the answer is on that, but we sure
Mhm.
are seeing a lot of it in our area. So yeah. So tell me about your background. Where'd you come from? I know you have a family ranch. We had that in common. That was so cool just to just touch base. It was just nice to speak the same speak. So that was fun. And tell us about your family.
Sure. Yeah. So we've got two kids, 5 and 9. They both just had birthdays. So we are, one is going into third grade, one's going into preschool. So it's busy. And
Yeah.
then we are on our third summer on our place. So just, yeah, 3 summers ago, we closed on this. It's just a small ranch. It's 100 acres. It's nothing huge. So on that, we've got about 55 acres of hay we put up. The balance of it is just grazing. And we've been playing around a lot with some intensive rotational grazing stuff because a lot of it is under pivot.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty fun. And we kind of went from square one. I mean, it was a new used pivot, so to speak, but they had never run it before. And it had been pretty heavily overgrazed and not irrigated for a while. And we're not sure how long, but a while. And
Mhm.
and it didn't have a house or anything on it. So we kind of spent the last 3 years. This summer's been a little less busy, but the 2 summers before this, they were pretty. There was a lot of farming to get even just hay ground established and trying to get the house up and
Mhm.
things like that. So it's been nuts, but it's been good. And then this summer, we kind of got to the end of the big stuff. Like any ranch, no matter what size, there's always things to do. You
Mhm.
could work yourself to death on it if you wanted to, but we kind of got through the big stuff. So this summer, we got back to a little bit of more normal, being able to, take some camping trips and some day trips and just do a little more of the recreating and outdoorsy stuff we like to do. So,
That's really wonderful. That's really,
yeah.
yeah, you and I are like tracking on all that stuff. That's right about where we're at and what we're doing too. So that's really fun because there's not very many ranches, I mean, even they're ranches by every definition from other people. It's just, we're from these areas where a ranch isn't a ranch unless it's at least a section or two and, has 100 cows on it plus, but establishing these new places and getting them up and going and putting families on them and starting to make an income from it. There's just so few people that are doing that now. So I really commend you. I know that we've put so much work into ours. So I think that that's really cool that we have that in common.
It's a fun thing and it's a lifestyle we like.
Yeah, absolutely. So what led you to real estate then?
It's kind of interesting. Several years ago, we had moved to Cody and the house we were in was being sold. And
Mm-hmm.
so we thought, well, we will go ahead and buy something. Or, well, we kind of thought first we'll rent. And then rent was so expensive because we had horses and dogs and whatever. So we kind of thought, well, maybe we'll buy. Anyway, long story short, I ended up talking with the gentleman who's now my broker. And through the course of that closing, he had said, have you ever thought about getting into real estate? And I was like, well, sort of. I've always been interested in real estate. Like I was the weird kid that when we traveled as a family, I was like picking up the real estate brochures everywhere we went and looking through them.
Yeah.
And they were just interesting, and I never really thought about that as a career. And I kind of thought, well, we'll just see. I said, yeah, I'm kind of interested, but we were not at a point then that I could really go from like a full-time income to just jumping in basically.
Yeah.
And so it was a couple of years later and my son was 2 and we only had the one kid at the time. And I just thought, well, we're kind of at a place I'm sort of getting done and bored with what I'm doing now. And it's time to kind of go on and challenge myself again.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just took the dive and we just tried it out and I enjoy it. I got into it. I've been with the same brokerage since I started and for a multitude of reasons. But yeah, we just decided to try it out and I don't know. Yeah, I really like it. There's so much about it that it fits our lifestyle. It fits my personality. One of the things that my first career was actually as a 4-H educator. And it was kind of one of those things that at some point in there, it was like, there should be jobs out there where the harder you work, the more reward you get out of it, and not just the internal kind.
Right.
Like the harder you work, the better you should get paid. Like you should reap some actual rewards from it.
Yes.
And you work your tail off as a 4-H educator and put in a ton of hours, and there are so many rewards to it, but you don't get paid hardly anything. And
Yeah. Pennies.
so it was kind of one of those things with real estate that it was like, this is one of those things. It is up to me how well I do at it. And the better I do, and the more I work, and the harder I try, and hopefully the better job I'm doing for people, then the more returns I get for it. And so that there's this, you might have times that you get pulled away, but at least you get the financial rewards for that when you do. So,
Mhm.
anyway,
Absolutely.
that fit my personality better.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. How did you make your first sale?
So it was interesting because at the time our office was right downtown Cody. And this gentleman came in and I just remember him being so frustrated because he had just been at a place. He didn't even tell me which one. I don't even care, but he'd just been in another real estate office and literally walked out of there just so deflated. And I'm surprised he even walked into ours because he was so just like depressed after the conversation he had there. But he did walk in, thankfully,
Mhm.
and the reason he was frustrated is that he walked in there saying, I just want to buy a small lot and I want to be able to, over the next few years, same kind of story. Like he was getting ready to retire in a few years and he wasn't going to have like millions of dollars to retire on, but he had enough. He just wanted to buy now a small lot and be able to start setting it up a piece at a time and then build a small cabin on it and retire. And when he left there, like he literally gave me the sheets they printed for him, and they were all beautiful houses. And this was a long time ago. I mean, we're talking 7 years ago, and they were all $350,000, which at the time in Cody was pretty expensive for just like a 1,500 square foot house on maybe an acre. At that time, that was pretty spendy.
Mhm.
And he was just so like devastated by this. Like, I'm not gonna be able to do my thing. And can you not even find a lot? I was like, oh yeah, there's lots. We can find them. And we did. We found him one. He loved it. He set it up. He built his little cabin. He was happy with all that. So
That's wonderful.
yeah, that was kind of the first one.
That's
Hmm.
wonderful. So you live in a smaller town. You and I live in areas that reputation matters.
Hmm.
Who has the fanciest marketing doesn't necessarily always be the one that's winning. So how do you build credibility with buyers and sellers quickly in your market?
I think the biggest thing is that I listen more than I talk. Just like that, that first guy that came in, I've treated everybody, I believe, the same way as tell me what it is you're trying to accomplish. And then I'm going to be honest with you and tell you whether or not it's doable. Because the other thing is downtown like that, we had plenty of tourists just walk in the door and they were just gung ho ready to buy. And oh man, we want to do this. And here's all the things we want. And here's how much we have to spend. And I was like, well, that is not practical. That's not something you're going to find here. We can look around other places in the Bighorn Basin on that budget and maybe make it happen. But if you want to be in Cody, that's not going to happen, and to be able to just listen to them though and help them solve their problem and figure out, okay, well, what is it that's most important to you? And just spend that time to get to know them and know what it is they're trying to do and whatever roadblocks they're running up against so that we kind of know that. And then we can remove the ones that we can, work around the ones we can. And then there might be some that we just say, well, that is not a roadblock that's going to go away. So we got to figure out something else. But
Mhm.
just, I think the credibility has a lot to do with treating people as people and not as sales.
Yep.
And as far as I'm concerned, this is a service industry, not a sales industry. And for me, if I stay grounded in that, then it always works out and I'm able to help people. And I feel like I've had good feedback from them as far as they do feel like I'm on their side and trying to help them and to help them solve the problems that they're running up against.
Mhm. Absolutely. Just being transparent and honest. I think that that's just
Hmm.
that basic foundation of just honesty is always the best policy and the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God. I mean, that's how I roll too, is it's like, I'm not going to blow smoke and this is what it
Yeah.
is. And, we have to be able to set proper expectations for people. And if it's not going to work, tell them as fast as possible. Tell them fast so
Hmm.
you're not dragging them on because it's emotionally draining for them to do these things and to look at properties and start moving in their mind and start making plans and telling people that they're looking and it's emotionally draining. So if it's not going to work and we're not going to be able to meet their expectations, tell them as fast as you possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think on the flip side too, even listing properties, I think there's times where once in a while people do listing presentations and things might get inflated a little bit, and And I know in our brokerage, there's been times we've lost listings because we won't do it.
Right.
We tell them, no, if they come back and say, no, I want you to list it. I absolutely want you to list it at this price. And we can, we work with them on some things and figure out some terms and that, I'm not going to say we've never listed a property overpriced because it happens,
Right.
but it's not because we're telling them to. It's we're on the other side saying, look, we have run the comp, we have looked at the market, we've done all these things, and we truly believe if you list it at this price, then that's what's going to get it to sell. And there's some people, we're very lucky. We do have some people that they're like, no, we just want to work with you, but this is what we want out of it. It's like, well, we can try it. I'm not going to say we can't, but you have to understand that this is against all of our advice.
Yeah.
So
setting proper expectations that if it doesn't sell within 60 days, we need to strongly discuss a price reduction. So
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with some of the unique properties that you guys have in your area too. I mean, it can be hard. People love their properties and they think that they're extra special and that that's worth more. But at the end of the day, a comp is a comp is a comp. And if you've got the weirdo property, it's going to be really hard to comp to. So yeah,
it is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and another thing too that we've had is just people. We had a lot of people in the last couple of years that were like, we really love our place. We really, we could get all this equity out of it. So people were wanting to get the equity out of their properties, but you had to have this really frank conversation. Say, yeah, you really could do that. But then what are you going to do? Where are you going to go? What are you going to buy? Where are you going to live? And again, we lost listings through that because people went, oh, well, I guess I can't rebuy what I already have. And I don't really want to leave. And so I think, again, just that honesty and being upfront with people, and then just, again, listening to them and kind of helping to be on their side and saying, well, yeah, we could get this listing and make money all day long, but at the end of the day, we're not on their side if we do that because now they're homeless,
Yeah.
So
and they probably have a
we do a lot of
3%
that
interest rate.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you were to start all over in real estate, what would you do differently?
I'm not sure I would do a lot different. I truly kind of believe that you get put in front of the circumstances and opportunities that you're meant to be in front of when the time is right. And, I've even thought about that. Like, would I have even gotten into real estate earlier in life because just different opportunities and whatever? And I would not be as good at real estate now had I gotten into it earlier in life because of the experiences I had leading up to that. I use them every single day to make me so much better at this than I would have been otherwise. I think the one thing that I wish I don't know if it's not that I didn't want to get into it earlier, but was getting more involved with association stuff and just kind of leaning on some other colleagues. I have an awesome brokerage and great people here, but I think that I didn't realize how supportive the rest of the real estate community was in helping you as an individual to be successful. Because you kind of get into it and it's sort of like this, you sort of get into it and you feel like, well, it's so competitive. Like we're all competing for everything all the time. But then what I learned several years into it is that's not really that true. That's true to a degree, but a greater degree is when you're around the right people, they want you to be successful and they're not afraid to help you be that way because they don't have this mindset that it's a limited amount of business or a limited amount of anything. Like we can share things that will help each other to be successful. And if I had known that sooner, I probably would have started leaning into that a little sooner. But same thing. Like I think at the time that I figured it out was a good time. I got in the right classes and seminars that kind of started opening my mind to some of those things. And then being, just involved in different pieces of the association and things like that has really helped just kind of bridge some of that and feel more confident in even asking people questions and knowing that the right people aren't going to lead you astray. They're going to help you. And it's okay to lean into that and talk to them and go have coffee with other realtors and just pick their brains. I mean, obviously, we know there's things we can't talk about, and that's fine. But this is more of the personal development type stuff and professional development type stuff.
Absolutely. That's really great advice. So, life balance. Do you have any? Do you have trouble keeping all the balls in the air with those little ones?
Not too much, because like I said, I was a 4-H educator and I really did burn out of that. And I think it's important that people know there's a difference between being tired and being burnt out. We all get tired and we all have times where we just need a break and a vacation or whatever. And that's normal. And what I've decided with real estate, I do like it enough that if I end up not being in real estate, I don't want it to be because I burned out. I already did that once, and it's actually really a difficult thing to get through, even when you're out of the career. There's
Mhm.
a whole bunch of actual emotional and psychological stuff going on, and you have to deal with it.
Mhm.
And it is more than just, I need 6 months off and I need to rest and feel better and whatever. Like there's a whole bunch of junk that goes with it. And I don't want to go through that again. And so the other thing I think is that having been through a career where it used up so much of my time, I have gone into this one with a different sort of maturity, I guess you want to call it.
Mhm.
And I just know my priorities in life. And right now, my kids are little and they're not going to be little very long. And so I set things up to where I can do as much work as I can. There are times they go with me, a lot
Mhm.
of times actually, that they go with me. And clients are really good about it. I let them know what's going on and how it's going to go. And most of them have families and they don't care.
Mhm.
Now, that being said, I have super good kids. And so
Yeah.
I think if they weren't, that would not be an option. But,
Right.
I mean, they have their kid moments, but for the most part, they're very, very good and they can go with me and it's fine.
Mhm.
The other thing is that I am very careful about what I say yes to. In fact, for the most part, I try to never say yes to anything without 24 hours. So if
Mm.
somebody asks me something today, I need at least 24 hours to think about it, to ask questions, to decide where it might fit in my world. And then I'll give the yes or no. And that 24 hours, if you just have that in yourself as sort of a policy, I think it does help, because at the very least, you just know that that is your answer. So when somebody asks you, you don't have to feel the pressure to say yes right then, because people are really good at that. And we're really good at putting it on ourselves as well. So if we just know in our minds that if somebody asks us a question, we need 24 hours, then that is the answer. And that gives you the opportunity to step back from it. And it gives them the opportunity to step back from it and then check back in a day later.
I
So.
love that. I've never heard that advice. That's really, really great advice. Going through all the no's so that you can get to the yes that you really are super excited about doing things. I think just as service oriented people, we want to make people happy. And so we are very quick to say yes to things, to committees, to meetings, to things that are just such a time suck. And often they go into the evenings, which is, when we're supposed to be a wife and mother and actually have some time to ourselves. And that's really great advice. I'm going to use that. That's awesome. That's awesome.
It has
Uh,
really helped with the prioritizing too, because of that. Like you have that minute to just say, does it fit? And
mhm.
maybe like there's been things I've been asked to do that I truly want to do, but it
Yeah.
doesn't fit right now.
Right.
It's not that it won't ever. It's just, it's can't right now, but it's on
Right.
the radar. It's down the road, and
Yeah.
that's okay too.
Yeah. Please keep me in mind for later, maybe next year, because I really do want to do
Mhm,
that. Just doesn't fit right
mhm,
now. Yeah. That's amazing. And I think it's just this is just old school thinking, but just the amount of clarity that can come from sleeping on something and
mhm.
just thinking about it. I have things that, like I went to bed last night with just something very pressing on my mind. And I woke up this morning and it was like, nope, I knew the answer. Like, nope, I can't do
Mhm.
that. I want to, but I just can't. And it just can't make sense of it. And I don't want to have any more nights sleep like that, worrying about it. So
Right.
it's like
Yeah.
I want to, but I just can't. So tell me, Rachel, what does success look like for you in 10 years? If you could plan out your life for the next 10 years, what would that look like?
So I do hope to still be in real estate. In 10 years, it's hard to believe, but my kids, the one will be graduated from school and the other will be in high school. And that's crazy, but true.
Mhm.
Um, so getting them there, that's a big piece of that success step. Hopefully we still have our small little ranch and it's going well and we're doing the things on there that we want to be doing and having the time in the meantime to still continue to recreate and do the things we enjoy. So that's a big piece of that picture. And
Mhm.
then, real estate wise, I hope that by that time that I just have hit a point with the balance question, to go back to that just a tiny bit, is that right now my balance, I don't think there is balance ever. I think there's like harmony is more of a thing. Like sometimes some parts are going to be louder than others. And so, right now the family part of that takes up a whole bunch of it, which is what I choose. But that
Right.
also means that my real estate business does not grow as quickly as some other people's. And I'm okay with that. Like that is a choice I'm making. I'm trying to keep it going and to continue it to grow, but I'm not at a point where I want to shift that. So hopefully sometime in the next 10 years, as the kids get a little bit older and they're doing more of their own thing, that's going to shift a little bit. And I spend more time in real estate. And at that point, what I guess I look at as successful is that as that shift begins, then the financial part becomes more stable. And that as that stability happens, then we can do the things we've talked about as far as like taking kids on trips. And as much as I love where we live, we truly believe we have to get them out of here to see the world and do things and not be afraid. They can always come back, but
Yeah.
we have to set that stage. And so, hopefully in the next years, that's how that shift happens, is that slowly there's, a little less time. The kids are not so demanding because they're not so little. Real estate becomes a little bit more. And then hopefully, as I get more familiar with the technology and some of the things I'm trying to implement, a lot of the real estate stuff becomes more automated, and I take care of the personal stuff because I do want to keep it personal. I am not somebody that wants to do all of my real estate stuff hands off. I do believe it is a people service industry. I want to keep it that way. But I think to be successful at it, you have to take pieces of it and automate it. And
Mhm.
so as time goes on, I'm hoping to implement those things and complement the personal part with the automation part and just make it a good experience for the people I'm working for, and just overall build the business as, the next 10 years. Hopefully it just builds and builds and builds.
That's incredible. I'm a little bit farther down the line than you with the kids, and my son is just going into high school right now. And so I'm in like that, wait, slow down, slow down. This is happening so fast, slow down. So I feel like I'm kind of on the other side of it, where I spent more time in my business when he was smaller and wasn't as present. And now I'm trying really hard to be more present and to enjoy these last 4 years we have together.
Mhm.
And to just not be the absent mom that I have been in the
Right.
past.
Yep.
That's what we did. That's what we did. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, what I didn't hear you say is, I didn't hear you say, I'm going to hit this number and this number and this number and this number, and I don't care how I do it. You know what I mean? And I love that about you, because that's who I used to be, is just very metrics oriented and obsessive. And that got me a
Mhm.
long way, but it definitely left some heart behind. And
Mhm.
I'm glad that, like you, I've matured into figuring out what matters and how that all orders. So yeah, this was
I think that
amazing.
it was, yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Do you have any other little snippets of advice for realtors out there, whether they're getting started or they're just kind of paddling through this kind of difficult market situation that we're in right now, low inventory, high interest rates?
Mhm. Two things, I think. First thing I think is it took me a long time to get brave enough to delve into the part of the MLS that talked about all the data, because it was a little bit scary and it was kind of confusing, especially if you're trying to set up your own reports. Like it's a little bit nerve wracking. Not that you're going to mess anything up, but it's like, I don't even really know what I'm even asking it for. I would say first and foremost, spend some time with that all the time, because that's where your market data should come from. It shouldn't come from what I think I saw, what I heard somebody else say, what the guy at the coffee shop thought, what the thing was that I read online, whatever. Like truly dive into your market and the analysis that are provided. And there's the MLS one, there's the RPR one, there's lots of them, and there's a lot of different ways to look at it. But just the more time you spend in there and running whatever reports, just make stuff up. It doesn't matter. But then it's at least getting you in there and familiar with the market stuff, because at the end of the day, that's what your people need to know about and understand. And if you don't understand it and know about it, you can't help them know about it and understand it. So that would be one thing. And the second thing is just, I think a lot of times new realtors get started and, they might have gone through their orientation at whatever brokerage they're in. If they even have one, sometimes they don't even have one, and you're just kind of thrown in there, but they're not all like that. So find a brokerage where you feel like you're supported no matter what. make sure that the people around you, you feel like they are supporting you no matter what. And then find some people outside of your brokerage that you feel like you can talk to, that you can lean on, that you can learn from, whether it's a mentor or a coach or whatever, but just do that and then just continue to learn and take the classes, not just the required ones, but any classes that you can take that will help you to be better. It all just feeds into your brain and it makes you more prepared for those first clients. And the more you know, the better you can help them. And you'll be surprised when they start asking questions, how much you really do know, and never be afraid to say, I don't know. So
Yeah.
follow up with them, and people are happy as long as you're working for them and you follow up with them. You don't have to be available every second of the day. You don't have to drop everything because the phone rang. You truly can, have a life, set your boundaries, follow up with people, and it will all work out.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Super great advice today, Rachel. Thank you so much for your time and your stories. This was fantastic. I'm so glad we got to connect.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks again for listening to this week's episode of the Success Realtor Podcast. Just as a reminder, I'm the producing branch manager of the Wood team at Hometown Lenders. What we are known for are three things. Number one, we close on time. Number two, we keep our realtors in the sales seat at all times by keeping them updated on their current transactions so they feel confident to go get the next one. Number three, when you entrust us with a lead, we follow up on that lead until they buy, fly, or die. Leads are never lost to our lack of follow-up. Our number one priority is for you to earn more money in commissions so that you can improve the lives of your family, community, and in turn, our country. So can I count on you for that next buyer lead? I would love to work with you too. Also, if you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, please just reach out to my office. All right, we'll talk to you when you call in, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Success Realtor Podcast. Bye-bye.